Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to have something a little bit of a deeper video. I was asked by someone to do a video talking about like the difference between loving a game and being addicted to the game. I feel like in Dead by Daylight especially, we have a lot of issues with like people being like very hard addicted to this game and thinking that they love the game, or outright just like straight up hating the game and not understanding that they actually have an addiction to playing the game, and they think just because they hate it that's not the case. So I kind of want to talk about the difference between like, hey, like what does an addiction look like to a game in terms of like feelings you get to it, versus like, oh well, this is a good relationship to have with the game even if you're not having fun all the time. And I'm somebody that has been addicted to a game before. Like I mentioned in my other video, I talked about how I had an MMO addiction for a hot minute, and the kind of feelings that I got from that like I see people in Dead by Daylight doing. I don't have that anymore, thankfully. If you're wondering, I don't have that anymore, thankfully. But I see a lot of people in Dead by Daylight have similar issues. So I kind of compiled these things, a list of 5 things that I think are signs that you may be addicted to Dead by Daylight, just based on my own experiences with like an MMO addiction and other people that I know also had MMO addictions, and just kind of like the things that were red flags that I did not see in the past, so you can have red flags so you don't get stuck like I did. Number 1, and this is a big one, you play the game even though it makes you anxious or frustrated, something basically one of those really negative feelings consistently. I think the key word is consistently. When you have a healthy relationship with the game, you have strong moments where the game makes you feel secure and validated. Even in hard and like really tough games like Dark Souls have like moments where you're like, oh, I finally beat the boss, and like all that suffering feels like it was worth it, right? Like you're like, oh, I finally did it. When you're addicted to a game, the game always makes you anxious, always makes you frustrated, like consistently. You're having a lot of negative emotions with an addiction that don't clear up. Even if you're having high highs, your low lows stay. You know, like I mentioned with like the Dark Souls example, when you finally beat a boss, it feels like all your suffering was worth it, right? It feels all your suffering was worth it. It's not a sunk cost. But a lot with like gaming addictions, you will have sunk cost feelings and emotions, and like essentially like hits to your mental health that like don't come back. Like even if you have a good moment in the game, it doesn't really like dispel away a lot of like the negative feelings that you had, like that anxiety, that frustration. It doesn't make you feel good, and you don't really get to feel better. And when you do feel better, it feels like you go right back into that negative zone, and that's not good. That's not good at all. I think 2 is a big one. 2, like this next one's like a huge one. You play the game hoping for more, and you always want more, even if it never comes. When you have a healthy relationship with the game, you don't feel like your time is really wasted, and that's kind of tying into the first one as well. Is like you feel like you got your value. You feel like, yeah, I spent my time well here. Like that was a worthwhile, like how many hours you spent, like that was a good time. Like I had overall, that was worth it. That was worth it in the end of things. You shouldn't be in the situation with the game where you're like always hoping for better things other than what you're doing, right? Like and with my example, it's like, I think with like the DBD example specifically, it's like some people just like spend this entire game like always hoping that like behavior will just like wake up one day and like drastically change survivor or drastically change killer, like to the specific things that they would want in order to make the game fun for them, and they just always hard push that. But like you get yourself in this vortex of like you're always wanting more. You always like nothing you're doing is ever like meeting you, giving you that value that you want, and you're always just hoping everything will change, or hoping like if I just play more games it'll get better. Like you're sinking a lot of time into this, and you're always like digging for, like you're digging deeper and deeper, and I'm telling you, there's no gold down there. If you're digging deep and deep and deep and deep and deeper, and you don't hit gold, you don't strike gold after a really long time, it's not going to happen. But if you're addicted, you just keep going and going and going, because you're convinced that at some point you will find value for all the effort that you've put in so far. Number 3 is a big one, a huge one I see in the Dead by Daylight community. You play the game with precise conditions to make you happy, and when they aren't met, you are unhappy. When you have a healthy relationship with a game, it means that like your conditions to have fun and have a good time are definitely a lot more malleable, and your definition of what fun is a little bit more, you know, flexible. Bad games and bad matches will happen, and bad moments in any game that you play, but you don't really let them deter you, because like there's fun to be had when there's a loss, fun to be had when a bad moment happens, because your definition of fun isn't limited to I get a 4K or like I get a 4-man escape. You have more fun even in the moments where you know, it doesn't seem like the game is actually, you know, too fun, because your definition of fun is like wider. You're like, I can still get enjoyment of the fact that even if my team loses, like on Survivor side, even if my like team loses, I had a good chase with the killer, that's cool with me. I find that a lot of people that are really, really unhappy with Dead by Daylight, like, go into games very much expecting that they are owed a 3K, 4K, or they are owed a 3-man, 4-man escape, and feeling like you're owed things in a game is a sign of addiction. It really is. It feels like it really is. And I know that sounds like I'm just like targeting DBD players, but that literally is a sign of like game addiction, because like if you have a healthy relationship with a game, you are able to understand that, you know, sometimes things go wrong, and that's okay, right? But when you're addicted to a game, you're like, dude, I've spent so much time in this game. The things should be going my way. I want things to go exactly my way, and the way I want things to go needs to happen, or else. And that's just not a healthy way to look at the game, and that's a sign of your addiction. I think 4 is probably the biggest one, the most obvious one, and if I didn't talk about it, people are gonna be like, well, this list was crap because you didn't mention this part. So here it is. You compulsively play the game even while you're having an awful time. So you mentally in your head, you have ID'd yourself. You have said, hey, I'm not having a good time right now. I'm having a really sucky time right now. I'm not enjoying the game. I've had days like this where I like, for some reason, I'll be playing killer and it's just like a gen rush day, or I'll be playing survivor and it's just like triple slowdown for like 7 games in a row. When you have a healthy relationship with the game, either you look at it and you go, that's okay. Not every day can be fun. Or you look at that and you go, maybe I'm playing something else today. You know, like if you don't stream this game, just go play something else. like turn on Pokemon Arceus or something, you know, like I don't know, like go do something else. If you look at that and you go, maybe this game's just not for me today, and you walk away, you have a healthy relationship. But one big thing I see with like Dead by Daylight players is they'll keep running their head against the wall. They're like, yeah, well, maybe the next game will be fine. Maybe this next game will be okay. And that goes back to number 2, which is, you know, always hoping for more, always wanting more, even if it never comes. See, this all ties together. But that behavior of like smashing your head in the wall, just keep returning back to the same circumstance and hoping the results are different, you know, definition of insanity. That is probably the biggest and most obvious sign of addiction, is that like you're having a bad time, but you keep coming back either way, and it's stupid. Okay, number 5, and this is a huge one. This is the reason I saved it for last, because this is the most important one. The game begins to define your sense of self instead of like thinking about what aspects of you affect the game. And I think that's a huge thing in the Dead by Daylight community. The DBD community really seems to like identify itself on, I'm a killer main, I'm a survivor main, I love behavior, I hate behavior. Like, we're a very like camp oriented community. We're very much like, this aspect of the game applies to me, and now that is identifying me as a person. I am a killer main. So therefore everything I do and say is defined, at least in the game, by like my perspective as a killer main. Like, that part of the game has overtaken my input into the game. And when you have a healthy relationship with the game, you never lose sight of that feeling of like, okay, well, I'm me. I am Bran. I am not just a killer main. I am a guy who likes horror games in general. I like metal music. I am a cat dad. Like, you know, like these things about me don't get like washed away in terms of my personality. I still approach Dead by Daylight like with all these things in mind. I'm not like, oh well, I'm just a killer main doing killer things. I'm like, well, I'm Bran, and I play Dead by Daylight, and I play a little bit of both. I play killer way more, but like I like Dead by Daylight in general, and I don't really define myself by the labels the game presents me and get way crazy wrapped up in them. But if you notice, this community has like a huge problem. Out of all the 5 on this list, I feel like number 5 here with like defining yourself by the game is probably the biggest offender, because like it's almost like identity politics, you know, like people really let the labels and perspectives in the game like define who they are while they're playing the game, as opposed to like, you know, them being a person that's influencing the game and their personality and what that brings to the game. You know, they get lost in that. And that's why like I try to like, you know, make my content, you know, obviously I'm going to be more focused on killer because that's part of the game I play more, but that's why I try to make my content for everybody, because like it's not because I'm trying to like manipulate you or fence it. It's just like I am a person that plays the video game. I am not a killer main, and that's my personality and any and all interactions with Dead by Daylight. Like, and people that do it's not like we always say it's weird, you need to touch grass. But the real reason is that it's part of game addiction. Unfortunately, it is part of game addiction that gets you even deeper into the game. Yep, it's very unfortunate. So yeah, those are 5 signs that you are addicted to a game versus actually loving a game. Hopefully, the addiction side of this doesn't apply to you. Hopefully, you have more of the healthy examples that I've mentioned in opposition to the things that I have said here today. Do you have people in your life that you feel like any of these numbers apply to? Like any of the reasons that I have listed today? Like obviously like someone's like, you know, number 4 compulsively play the game is that one's a little bit easier to point out, but like some of these are really obscure, and a lot of these like will go over your head and you won't even realize you're addicted. So I'm interested in what examples of these that you have like seen in the community that seems to be like doing a lot of damage. Like which one of these you're like, man, that's the DBD community right there. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like it, and if you want to see more of my daily uploads, make sure you do the sub-aroni. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. If I don't, I'll see you when I see you, friends. Goodbye.